Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead, another episode of On the Wrong Lead Live. And, this is kind of the calm before the storm. Um, I think that's basically the nicest way I can say what this weekend of racing is. Not to say that, the couple of races that we're going to cover aren't good races, but really they're the only races I think kind of worth looking at. And it's just kind of like I said, like a slow week. Everyone's kind of holding back, waiting for what's going to start next week, which is obviously Louisiana Derby, the start of the big preps here for the Kentucky Derby. And I'm gonna get our probably our number one fan of anything that is just cheap racing, Mr. Mark Capitan. um
Ooh,
I
you're going there, huh? Okay.
Well, I think you had some choice words for this time of year earlier in chat. So
I may have that. I may have had some choice words. I mean, this is not. This is not the best racing of the year. You're definitely in that spot where everybody. I think these days everybody's trying to line up and get the. Oh, we want to put our preps this far out from the Derby and schedule them all out, and it's just this is not the best racing right now, and that's fine. There are times of the year where racing gets much better, but not as excited for this weekend as I will be for, I don't know, let's say for Saturday, May.
yeah. And Penn State Scott's asking if we left our computers in the Vegas hotel room. None of Caleb or myself left it. However, a man named Scott Revere possibly had left some stuff over in Vegas there. Most notably, a lot of money at the craps table. I don't know who that is, but we'll bring in Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. That's why I sound okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, doing good. Vegas was a blast. Even though I came home, about 15 pounds of dollar bills lighter. But pockets were light and wallet was thin. But we had fun. We had good food. Got to hang out with the guys. Always a good time. So, yeah, no regrets. It was a fun trip.
I know Mark. Mark said that he's like, well, good thing I missed the most boring possible trip because I on drinking champagne. I recanted a bunch of stories I had from the trip, and then it dawned on me when I was about to wrap up everything that all of my stories happened like before you got there, Caleb. Because once you got there, well, I did tell the Boris story, so I had to tell the Boris story, and then the fun we had after that at Cosmo. So with the other dealers, that was just a really weird story. And Caleb, I don't know if you want to just briefly tell that story, that one story, before we get into everything, because I don't know, man.
Yes, I mean, it just feels like dealers in Vegas. I mean, that's so hit or miss. It was me and Gary playing blackjack, and it was a rough shoe. The dealer found a way to make 21 with a 6-up card about 3 or 4 different times. And after about the fifth time, I lost with like 20 against a 5 or a 6 on his up card. I was like, like motherfucker. And then the dealer got like super offended because I swore at his blackjack table. And of all the people, I'm with Gary and I'm the one who's getting heat, which is the most ironic thing in the world if you know Gary. And he's like, if you don't like it, you can leave. And I'm like, well, listen, like I wasn't like directed at you. It's just, that's frustrating. Like that sucks. And he's like, well, you don't have to swear. And I'm like, all right, well, like it's not a big deal. Like we'll just deal the next hand. And he's like, yeah, you don't have to gamble here. So finally, I'm just like, all right, then I won't. I'll color up. And I left. Me and Gary colored up too. And, we were pretty pissed off after that. But thankfully, we found another dealer. I can't remember her name, but She was awesome. Also at Cosmo. So they kind of got back into my good graces after that because I was pretty unpleased with Cosmo after that experience with Boris. But I can't remember the other dealer's name. It was like Virginia or something like that. I forget.
Yeah.
But she was awesome.
Both the dealers are cool. And the lady,
yeah, and the other
too.
guy too that was switching out with her, both super cool. They still took my money, but at least I got to laugh while it happened. So.
I'll tell you what, Cosmo dealers seem to be either ends of the spectrum. They're either really, really, really good or really, really, really bad. I know Gary and I had a 3-card girl she was amazing, just absolutely hilarious. And we were playing a game of Party Girl or Call Girl, and that was a fun game as you watch people walk by, and you have a lot of fun with the dealers. And as long as they're there to entertaining you take care of them. You're getting drinks. It's a great vibe. Hey, you're down a little bit. You don't really care because you're having fun, right? As long as the dealer creates a good vibe. But then it seems to be the exact opposite of that, where I've had a couple where you're like, whoa, I don't want to be sitting at your table because you are miserable. You're like a not nice human being. So
you're a Boris.
You're a Boris.
Yeah, don't be
I look at. I'm going to tell you right now, and I told this to Andrew too. The most amazing thing that probably happened the entire trip, I mean, outside of like when I was winning before Caleb got there, was they were sitting and they were playing $15 blackjack. After they left Boris, they were playing $15 blackjack, and they were sitting next to it with a guy who was playing like what, Caleb, like between like $50 and $200 a hand. He was like going up and down, like he was like
the guy on the first seat.
Yeah,
down. Yeah.
I mean, he was playing more, but they had moved the limits up to $25, and I'd probably been standing there for what, 10 minutes, just like bullshitting with you guys. And she's like, "Oh, why don't you sit down?" I was like, "I don't want to play $25." She's like, "Sit down. You can play $15." And so she asked the guy. She's like, "Hey, is it okay?"
Oh, that's cool as hell.
Is he okay
That's
if
awesome.
he sits down and plays $15? And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care." He brings the pit boss over. Is it okay if he plays $15? She's like, she's with these two guys. They're grandfathered, and the boss is like, "That's fine. Yeah, go for it." And so like, oftentimes, Caleb and I, we'd be playing and we'd be grandfathered in at the smaller amount. I mean, we were playing $10 craps, I think, one morning, probably like to the point where there was mass confusion just because we had been there probably for about an hour or two after they had raised the limit. But luckily it was the same dealers. But we had some good dealers. I thought the dealers at the Luxor were actually really good. I had a good experience with them the first time, and then I didn't tell the story about the dealers at Excalibur, but the dealers at Excalibur only firmed up that the dealers at the Luxor are at least better than the dealers at Excalibur.
God, that was rough. The most janky, like clunky, no rhythm craps game I've ever played. It was one roll, and then there's a 5-minute break while they try to figure out how to pay people, and they let people buy in, and it's just a nightmare.
And Mike and his betting strategy that nobody knew what was going on, including him, and confused the dealers too. At Luxor, they were a little bit more patient with him, and they were just like basically telling him what to do, and Mike was going along with it. But the lady at Excalibur, who was already in the weeds, like was just not having it, and was like throwing money back at him. It was pretty funny. But
what's the no smoking one that you
Park MGM.
Okay, I thought the dealers there were really good. The last time I played there, I don't know if you guys got down there, but I was actually really impressed. I thought they're awesome. So yeah, just random plug for Park MGM.
Yeah, Nick Seaver saying a no rhythm craps game may be the worst craps game.
Yeah,
man.
I don't know.
I'm just sitting there just wanting to pull my hair out the whole time. It's so bad.
Yeah, and even if it was like, because we were there in the afternoon and it was still $10, and it's like, I would have rather played a quarter at that point than sit there and play $10 there. Oh man. But no, it was fun. We have we're just talking, we have an interesting week of racing. Obviously Colonial Downs has got their kind of short meet coming up here. 3 days. And so they can get their Derby prep here.
I mean,
so
didn't it start today?
Yep.
Didn't it start today? So it's not coming up. I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, yeah, whatever.
Did anyone see what happened in the first race today?
I just know it was a non-wagering event, but I don't know
why.
I
don't I saw like a Pollock Report article, and it was like they were worried about like getting the consents, like CON, like consent, in, but like, what does that mean? Like consent, whose consent and for what? I mean, I'm not a horseman, but like, does anyone know? I've never seen that. And even, I was talking to Dad, and he would have hit the pick 5 if there was a pick 5. And he said the people on TVG didn't really know what was going on either, although that's not really a high bar. So, like I have no idea what that was about. I mean, I was curious if you guys heard anything.
I didn't hear anything. I didn't realize anything happened. I know a stable I affiliated with won the last race, so they were super excited with the maiden that they won that with. But I didn't hear anything about the first race.
Yeah, they took bets, and then the race went off. It went official, and then they took a half an hour delay, and then they refunded all bets from the first race.
I'm reading now. 1 second. 32-minute tote delay. Oh wow. Oh my.
I know it was Tampa Bay-esque.
Yeah. Except at least it's in the first race and not the payout leg.
Although for your dad, what's it matter, right?
Yeah,
if
true.
If it's not the tote, it's the jockey.
Yep.
Ooh, I'm not going to read that one out loud, Stephen Fox, but oh man, yeah, I don't know what happened. Mark, maybe he'll be able to figure it out.
I have no idea what consent is as it relates to horse racing. So yeah, no, the other consent got that down, but not as it relates to horse racing. So
yeah, I have no clue. That's interesting. If someone figures out, I'd like to know. But yeah, we're gonna. I thought this sequence was very. Oh, so CB4U to win says the totes didn't get to the pools at the track race 1.
I will message a guy who will know. Hold on, and I'll get a good answer.
I know exactly who you're messaging as well. But yeah. I don't know. So I talked through this pick 4 with Andrew on Drinking Champagne this week. So there's going to be a little bit of doubling down on content. But let's be honest, there wasn't really much to cover this week. But I thought this was a pretty approachable sequence. I thought it was a place where you can get really narrow, or I thought that like you kind of had to get narrow if you were going to make any money, because I thought there was a couple of short prices in here that you got to make a decision on.
Yeah.
And like race 6, for example, I think there's basically 2 horses that are kind of head and shoulders above the rest. And in my case, I'm using them both. I mean, we have an 8 horse field here. Hitchcock is 6-5, 5-2 on Verifier. Sure meant to be. The 7 is 6-1. Venick is 5-1. You got double digits on everybody else. I took the 2 logicals in here. I took Hitchcock and I took Verifier here. I mean, no disrespect to some of the other other trainers and jockeys and who are running here, but you have a first time starter for Brad Cox that Flavian Pratt gets aboard for, and then you have a horse that ran in a very very good maiden race at Churchill Downs, where they have very very salty racing, and finished a solid 3rd the first time out. And Irad Ortiz sees fit to get aboard here on Hitchcock. So $550,000 purchase. I think it's just, like I said, another. I just think that these are the 2 horses. One of these 2 horses are going to be the ones that win this race, probably like 95% of the time. So I'm going with both those guys, those equally. I'm making, I think, slightly tougher decisions later. But Mark, how did you kind of see this race?
Exactly the same as you did. I think the race goes through either Hitchcock or Verifier. The only other horse I thought warranted a touch of a look would be the 8 Venick, who has some okay works. That 2 back work going 48-1, 3rd-38 at Keeneland. Interesting sort of other horse from a pedigree that tends to do well early, and apparently can get Lasix at first ask in in Virginia. Well, I can't enunciate tonight. Sorry about that. So I thought that was the only other horse in here that made any sense, but would be a B type for me, or maybe even a C, depending on how the board does. I think probably 90% of the time this race goes through either the 2 or the 4. Can't draw a line between either one of them, so I'll use them both.
Caleb.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think it's 2-4. I like the 4 better. You got $1 million purchase for Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt. Pratt rides a lot of Pete Urton's horses, and he especially did back in California. So, for him to get on the Cox here, I mean, I'd probably give the edge to the Cox versus the IRAD horse with Peter Urton up, or Peter Urton's with IRAD up. But it's a 1A, 1B situation. And if I had to use a third, it would probably be Mark's 8. Probably going to be the third pick in the race. I don't think I'll go that deep. Like you said, Josh, probably make hard decisions later. This is not the spot I want to get too clever with horses that, both look good, and it's really hard to pick one over the other.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make a little bit of a case maybe for the 7, but I mean, I don't know. He kind of had it all his own way last time. Got that real soft second fraction and still got caught. So I don't know if I wanted to take a chance with that one, but that was really it. I mean, maybe if I'm feeling, I'll use the 7 as kind of like a B. Maybe he tries and steal it on the front end, but yeah, I didn't think that there was much to this race here. I did think it started maybe get a little bit more interesting in race 7, but it looks like we do have 4 minutes to post here at Turfway Park. Mark and I both, while we were waiting for Caleb to get on, both got boomed in the pick 4, where Mark looked like he was home free, and then he got closed down. Race 8 has got a bit of a Turfway specialist here. In the 6 Proto Magic, 5 wins, 5 seconds, and 13 starts. Just kind of hard knocking horse, 6-year-old. 6-year-old with 42 starts. I mean, this is a horse that loves to run apparently. I used the 6 here. I also used the 3, who I think is like 5-2 right now as your favorite. All jokes aside, I kind of. Was looking at kind of the last couple of races. It does seem like off the pace seems to be a little bit stronger now going into the night. And all jokes aside here, looks to have a bit of a late kick here. Can probably sit just off the pace and maybe close in here. And then the other horse I used was the 8, Unworkable, because this does look like the speed in this race is drawn a little outside. But, 2 back won a 5,000 claimer by 7 lengths. And last race actually ran a pretty decent second here. So I don't think the 8 is in here without a shot. And, I'm getting a bit of a price here. I'm getting 23-1 on it. So I'm using the 3-6-8 in a pick 3. And then I'm also playing some exactas. 3-6 with 3-6, and then 3-6-8 exacta box. So I'm just basically pressing the 3-6 exacta box and then playing a 3-6-8 here. Mark, how did you kind of see this one?
Exactly the same as you did, 3-6-8, and then I added the 10, who was the other speed in this race. I will say, if you watch the early part of the card, it was extremely speed favoring, and it's only the last 2 races where the track has seemed to play a lot more closer biased. So, the 10 wired the last out race, and I thought Right Back was a bit of an interesting player in here. Although this horse is a bit of an every other sort of form pattern, and this is probably the other race, but I thought the 10 was a little bit interesting in here at least. But yeah, I agree with Josh on the other 3. And just playing a pick 3 here, but of course I got boomed in the first leg of my pick 5 and then boomed in the first leg of my pick 4. So I'm sorry, Josh, but we're somehow getting boomed here.
Yeah, that's called Calebing a sequence.
Oh, Calebing a sequence. Okay.
Which, dude, Caleb, we never even mentioned this. We totally, I don't even know how much money I lost at Tampa because I did that. I Caleb that entire sequence, I think, down to the double. And then I also played the cross country. So it was a bloodbath, man. That Saturday was a bloodbath. I don't know what
it was rough. It was a rough one.
Caleb, what did you see here at Turfway?
I really only glanced at it pretty quick. I thought the pace looked contested anyway, with the 3, 8, and 10 all kind of going, and maybe 1 or 2 sitting just off. I thought the 2 just looks like he gets a good trip in here. I mean, he's kind of coming off of a win, which he hasn't done a ton of as a 9-year-old gelding. But maybe the new barn kind of figured something out. But he's run 2 good races in a row at Turfway. including it's always hard to claim off of Jacobson, but was able to do that and still run back with the win. You're getting a nice price in here, so I like the 2. I did look at the 7 a little bit as well, who's 2 for 2 at Turfway and has one of the top local jocks here on board. Maybe gets us kind of a stalking trip off the dueling leaders. And then, beyond that, I mean, the horses y'all mentioned, I mean, specifically the 8 and the 10, I think look pretty good as well. I mean, the 3 is taking a bunch of money, and I get it on the class drop, but he's probably not my favorite one of the short prices here. So I liked 2 and 7, and I have some respect for the 8 and 10, the speed horses you guys talked about.
Cool. We're at 0 minutes post, and we're off. And the 8 runs off to the lead. I saw the Wolf of Oak Lawn.
And now? Can we end this race now?
Yeah, I know. I saw the Wolf of Oak Lawn in chat earlier, and I miss when we used to make him call these races. I do remember. I think he quit the stream halfway through because I asked him to call a race. So, because he wasn't feeling well, and I just cracked the whip anyway.
Was it Flapjack's race?
Oh, it should have been. Should have been a Flapjack race.
Man, this 8 is out there all by his lonesome.
If this 8 could get brave, that'd be nice.
And if this 3 could sit,
no one's in the screen, but that's because we also have like the fisheye lens on with the cameraman right now. But
oh, come on, get brave. No, you're gonna get run down, but you could try to get brave.
Come on.
He might be brave.
Nah, he's not gonna get brave. Not gonna happen.
Come on.
Brave enough.
Game's over.
Can you be brave enough for second at least?
Oh yeah, he's brave enough for second.
Oh, he's brave enough for second. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That helps. What do we got? What is that 3-8 exacta paying? $105 for.
I can't believe they let the 8 go off at 20 to 1.
That's shocking, given that was the other speed, like that, or the speed, the obvious speed, I should say.
Yeah, that's either 10 or the 2 that almost had to go.
Yeah, the 8 or the 10 had to go, and one of them holding on for a piece and gets let go at 20. That's crazy. But
no, I will take that $100 and take that to the bank.
Yeah, right.
What?
Wow.
Bank.
Oh, I thought I as soon as you said that, I saw Stephen Fox saying he's working on his baseball draft, and that's what I thought you said. Yeah, right. If you had any
I would draft.
I saw Caleb any thoughts, and that's why I thought you said yeah, right.
I would draft
you're right.
Franco Valdez at number 420.
No, I'll use it. I'll lose it at Cheltenham tomorrow. Although I hit the pick 6 today. I don't know how, but I hit the pick 6. It was a 10-cent pick 6. I hit it for $60. I think it's a place pick all.
It's got to be a place pick all. There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick's saying take it to race 9. That's more like it. Yeah, he knows. Nick's I've never met up with Nick, but Nick already knows. Yeah, we're gonna take that. We're gonna take the $100 to race 9. Cool. Well, that's nice to actually like see one go through the hoop, because yeah, it's been that I'm still thinking about Tampa, man. That was rough. Race 7 here. We're gonna be going a mile, 1-turn mile here at Colonial Downs, and we have a field of 10. Your morning line favorite is going to be at 5-2. The number 5, Lure Him In. Eloquist at 7-2. You get 4-1 on Just Call Ray. 5-1 on 2 Eagles River. 8-1 on Hey Chief. Double digits on everybody else. Mark, I'll let you start here. Where did you land?
Yeah, I think the horse is in here that's going to take all the money is that 5 Lure Me In, the morning line favorite, or Rad hopping up off the win at Tampa last out. A horse makes all the sense in the world. Trying to really get off these kind of angles. Nothing that I really dislike there, but I think the horse I'm most interested in is the 8 2 Eagles River, who gets the Axeman up, I think if you look at the weather forecast, there's no real rain or weather in the forecast, and I would imagine the races he's coming out of, the last 2 at Oaklawn, are better races than this, and I really wonder if getting back to a dry surface where he won that 4-back race at Churchill, that claiming 80, with this jockey up, I really wonder if 2 Eagles River here is kind of the horse to beat. This is one of those horses I think you get a little bit of that, I don't know, subtle, dirtied up form where there's some excuses for the last three being a little bit off, and getting back to fast dirt, getting back to a trip he likes. I think he's a really interesting player in here, and so I hope I can get every bit of that every bit of that, every bit of that 5-1 in the morning line. But I thought you could go a bunch of different ways in here, so interested to see where you guys land.
Yeah, I will say the one interesting thing about Two Eagles River, and Caleb, I know Caleb hates this, like when I talk about this stuff. Um, this horse has been a closer in these sprints,
Hmm.
but the E1 and E2 pace figures are way higher than anything anybody else has run. So I'm really kind of curious to see how this horse is going to run on the stretch out.
Yeah, and that was my thing as well. I think he can sit any kind of trip. I don't think he's a horse that needs a lead. I don't think he needs to be a closer. I think he probably sits a pocket trip here and kind of gets first run on the speeds. Horses like the five, their aforementioned five lure him in. Somebody like the six or Counter Sunset, or even somebody like the nine Wine Collector, who are all big prices with the exception of the five. So I think the eight can kind of track and pounce. So I think it sits the right kind of a trip. And I thought Two Eagles River was pretty interesting here.
Yeah, I just think he's going to be closer up than maybe it looks like on
Mhm.
the form, just because of the stretch out.
Agreed.
And
Yeah,
like
agreed.
if you look at the race at 7.5 furlongs at Churchill, right? I mean, he led at first call, and then kind of went back. And I mean, obviously he folded up like a cheap suit, but I thought that he's kind of an interesting spot in here in pace complexion. Caleb, how did you kind of see this race?
Yeah, surprisingly, I saw it the same way. Two Eagles River was my top pick. I
Wow.
think for me, I don't know who's going to get the lead in this race. I had a really hard time forecasting the pace. Yeah, the five, maybe, but with Irad, I'm just not so sure. And it isn't like this horse ever really ran fast in his early fractions. I mean, 24 and 2, a two-term, mile and 40 yards at Tampa. I mean, the nine, I mean, yes, he's made the lead a few times, but he's also just not very fast. So I'm like, well, I don't really give much stock in Brisk pace figures necessarily, but this horse is stretching out. He has shown, flashes of speed at points in his career. And even if, he hasn't, I mean, what he's been running in his last three races is still a quicker opening quarter than what most others in here have been running. So for me, I mean, the fact that I think he may not get the lead, I'm not so sure about that, but he should be forward in this field, especially with Machado getting up, giving him a more aggressive ride. And then he's getting class relief as well. I mean, those optional 62s are just a lot tougher than what you see here in this optional 50 at Colonial. So he was my top pick in here. I did not like the five, lure him in. I don't like the fact he had to go to Tampa to get that win, and I think he's better around two turns than he is one turn, actually. This is a one-turn mile here at Colonial. So as the favorite, and given the fact I think it's a pretty chalky sequence, I don't need any part of lure him in. So I kind of went away from him. But I thought this was a hard race because it's hard to love anybody. And if I am going to spread, it's probably going to be to like the one and the two. And I don't know, or the three even. And I just don't know if I trust Parks and Aqueduct and Laurel Figures coming in here, or the three seems to be going the wrong way in his form cycles. It's a hard race for me to really love anything. I know that I like Two Eagles River. If we're all on him, he's going to be shorter than 5-1 probably. But beyond that, I haven't really decided how I'll approach this race, other than I don't think I'll have Lord him in.
Yeah, I did see that Russ is asking a very important question if Luan knows where the finish line is at this track, because I'm pretty sure this is another one of those wonky setups. So got to be careful. Make sure Papa Knight's on watch.
I'll tell him to put him on watch.
um, yeah, I don't know. I kind of, like I said, I thought this looked kind of formful to me. The one is probably my top pick in here, but you always have that. You got that question mark when you see Jamie Ness horses and they pop a really big figure. Whether they're going to regress off that figure or whether they're going to keep going off of it, because he seems to be a guy who will get a horse going really well for a couple of races, and then all of a sudden it just kind of falls off the face of the earth. I don't know, weird how that happens, but Yeah, I think if this horse runs back to the figure that he ran last time, I mean, I think he's clearly probably the horse to beat in here. So I like the one Eliquist. I am going to use the 5, lure him in. Um, I share your concern though, Caleb, in the fact that this is a 2-turn race or a 1-turn race and not a 2-turn like the mile at Tampa. But I don't know. I think the fact that IRED gets aboard here, and the 1-turn races weren't that much worse than his 2-turn race that he won last time. Um, and yeah, Sam Walensky, actually he is 3 for 9 off the layoff. So, I think this horse is going to be coming in here, ready to fire fresh. So I'm going to use both those, and then I am going to also use the 8-2 Eagles River here as a B. I really like I. You know me. I tried to make a case for this 9.
I knew you would.
I tried to make a case for this 9, but the race where at Laurel, I mean, he got a candy ass trip there, right? He went 24-1, 48-3, and couldn't hold on at Laurel. I mean, I don't know. I just don't like that. Like that's not like real speed, like we're looking sub 24, 47-3 or something at least, right? So I just don't think this is a horse that really possesses that kind of like real speed. So I'm not even sure if he gets the lead here, honestly. Like, so yeah, I couldn't get there with the 9, but
What I'll say
I
about the
tried.
9, Josh, because I did look at him as well, is that his raw fractions and his pace figures were slow in that Laurel race and that $40,000 claimer. But if you look at the way that race was run, I mean, he was the only horse in the front half of the field that was around at the end of that race. I mean, he was dueling and carving out the fractions, although they were kind of slow on paper. But the horses that ran first, third, fourth, and fifth were fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, at the first call. The horses that were second, third, and fourth finished last, second from last, and third from last. So I do wonder if maybe you give a slight upgrade to the slow pace figure, because it does seem like maybe they were just bad horses. I didn't go back and maybe they were all 30-1. I didn't look at the odds that closely. But whenever I see that, I do try to give a little extra credit for a horse that was the only one to stick around as part of a pace scenario like that. I don't think he's classy enough against this field, but he might be a C for me.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. Like one thing I really really hate though too is if you look at this horse's last race, was in the 3 post, and was in the 3 post, and what do you see in the notes? Chased 3 wide the entire time from the 3 post. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I get that it's not the same jock, so maybe Jevian Toledo here is gonna go ahead and get get him in here. I saw CB for you to win. He's asking about the number 10. He's asking if we think this one's got a shot here. I mean, if you look at that on Brisnet loved that last race here, and Carol Cedino stays aboard. Did you guys look at this 10 at all?
I look at the 10. I just don't give the 10 any chance to win here.
I mean, Sam Rishu is the 1 and the 2, but even on his day, I don't know if he's good enough. So probably not for me. But his last 2 races were good. His last 4 races were good. So I wouldn't talk you off it.
What does time form like any of those races, or is this horse just too slow?
The horse is probably 8 points too slow off from any of the best in those last 3 to be a player here. Now, obviously, speed figures have their flaws. I'm not trying to say that they're perfect or anything, but I just had a really hard time getting there. I mean, the trainer is 0 for 15 with the winner out last start, 0 for 9, going 61 to 180 days back. The horse seems to have kind of an every other firing sort of pattern. I thought there was a lot of things that really make me not that interested in that horse. Like I want to go other places.
So I heard
also
two
look at
things
the horses.
there.
Also looks at the horses dual entered and probably runs in the race tomorrow and not Saturday. But
so I heard 2 things there. One, I heard the speed handicapper saying, "Hey, speed figures suck," and then 2, I heard that this trainer is due. Right, that's what I heard. Like just like when next time Caleb and I show up at the craps table, I mean, we're gonna be rolling for an hour. We're so due.
Yeah, exactly, Josh. Clearly.
Telling you, Mark, my 40th birthday next year at Cosmo. I expect to see you there. Uh, the Virginia Oaks.
Already said I'm there. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you just yeah, go on.
Caleb's got this look of shock on his face, like he's like, "How am I ever going to afford this?"
Yeah, but you see,
Well,
these
I'm
things
thinking,
don't
how am I going to
happen
afford
when
the
I'm
3
there.
Vega trips in between now and then?
Oh man,
I thought we're going in December. Are we going in
December.
December?
Yeah,
Okay.
December might work. Virginia Oaks, mile and 16th. Important to note, this is a one-turn mile and 16th, apparently. And yeah, this is a 50-point Kentucky Oaks race, and you have a field 8 in this race. Morning line favorite is going to be the 3 Gowell's Delight, 7-2 on Fondly, 9-2 on You'll Be Back. You get 5-1 on Girl Math, 6-1 on Anonima, 8-1 early on in Icona Mama, and 10-1 on Low Key. A very, very flat morning line, I think, for this race. Um, Caleb, I'll let you go first. Where did you land here?
Yeah, I think this race goes through our Lord and Savior Kenneth McPeak. I think he holds all the cards in here. I think he probably has the first and arguably second most likely winner. I do think that Gal's Delight's probably the horse to beat. She just comes in having faced the best horses in here, racing at the fairgrounds and then taking on big win first time out, then going into the Martha Washington at Oaklawn, and it didn't run great there, but the figure wasn't all that bad. But then came back and ran a nice race in a field that was kind of decimated by scratches. And the Rachel Alexandra, it wasn't even close against Goodyear, but Goodyear was undefeated as a 2-year-old and doesn't appear to have lost a step at all. Giles Delight comes in with the fastest race in the field out of that Rachel Alexandra. So I just think that, again, I don't see a ton of speed in here. Yeah, I don't know that Giles Delight gets the lead, but she's certainly going to be forward. And I just don't see, a whole lot of other horses that really want to go with her. She's already proven at this distance here. She's the classiest horse in the race. She's 3-1, so you're not going to get anything crazy. But I think she's the likeliest winner. But I did want to kind of make the case for Anonima, who I think is maybe a little more likely to get overlooked. She was really progressive heading into that Honeybee. And then once in the Honeybee, she just kind of had an impossible trip. That was the 23rd of February. I think that was the Rebel Day, if I remember correctly, or maybe the Southwest. I forget. But at any rate, it was one of the Oaklawn preps, and there was a pretty, in my opinion, a fairly strong speed bias that day. The runners of that top 3 finishers of the Honeybee were 1, 2, 3 the whole way around. The 4th place finisher was 4th place the whole way around, for that matter. So nobody was closing that day, and on top of that, she was just super wide in the turns. She had a pretty poor ride, from admittedly a tough post. She's drawn much better here. It's a softer field, and if you go back to the race, 2 and 3 back, she's kind of right in this. And with any improvement off that optional 100 win, I think she would be able to, get into the conversation for top honors here. So I do think Gal's Delight is the better of McPeak half, but I do like Anonima enough that she'll make my tickets as well.
Mark.
Yeah, Caleb has apparently a much better feel for this race than I did, because I felt this was just a really flat, really spready type of race. Can Gal's Light win this race? Sure. Can Nemina, however we're saying that horse's name, win? I mean, I guess, sure. But I also thought horses like You'll Be Back or Fondly were also really interesting. I mean, Fondly's lightly raced, has every right to take a little step forward and be a major player here. We know Graham Motion, isn't the kind of trainer that shows up with his best stuff at this sort of boutique meets. He runs a lot of these Mid-Atlantic and the Tampas and that kind of thing. This horse very well could have talent, take a little step forward and be a major player here. And I don't think You'll Be Back also had, a ton of excuses in that Dixie Belle, where she ran fairly decent after studying early, and wasn't disgraced in any way, shape, or form in that race. So I think
Thank you.
really. Okay. Put it right in the winner's circle for me. That'd be cool. But no, I think I think I saw this race as being much more flat, where any of those horses would make a lot of sense. In this field, I think it's a kind of race that I want to be a little spready in here because I feel like there's other spots in the sequence, like the next race, where I can be really aggressive. So I thought 3, 6, or 8 all made some sense, and I could even make some cases for some prices. Somebody like an early on in here, the 5.
Yeah, I got no issue with your 6, other than I'm not sure about the distance. She got a little bit tired going a mile.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but for me, when you look at the other horses like the 5 or the 8, I just think, given the connections, there's just zero value to those horses in my book. Maybe the 8 improves, but she beat nothing at Tampa. She has to go 2 turns now. It's the far outside post, facing winners the first time, and the horse is going to be second choice probably. So for me, it's more of a value proposition that I just think there's no value in spreading into these horses that need to improve to win and are going to get bet like they're already fast enough to win. So, but again, I wouldn't be totally surprised, to your point. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just saying that's a legitimate critique. I think, if Fondly ends up your second choice, no, you probably that's a horse definitely on something like a win bet or a whatever. You try to get that horse off the board at that kind of price because obviously main breaker last out first time versus winners, that's never a great thing. But I do love to see a maiden breaker first out who is past other horses. Clearly shows that there's some ability there. A horse that maybe a little bit more mentally sound. That's always a nice thing. And obviously, I think Graham Motion treats his horses right, and he is a really good job of developing his younger horses. So, interesting sort of new player in this field. But again, if this horse goes off a second choice, yeah, much less interested. Very much agree with you there.
I wish we could all be a little bit more mentally sound. I think that would help all of us out. I got a single in this race, and it's a horse that none of you guys have talked about. I'm singling the 1, Icona Mama here. I see Johnny V's getting the board here. This is a horse that's been, picking up the frequent flyer miles. Went from PID out to Saratoga. Then, hasn't stayed in a single circuit at all here. And honestly, I think has got some pretty nice races form-wise, especially if you look back, right? The second in the Bolton Landing, the third in the Pocahontas by 3/4 of a length. Went to the Frizette, and I don't know, what happened there. It seemed like maybe the horse kind of got behind way too early, and then just kind of packed it in. But came back with a listed stakes win, and then last time out kind of failed as the favorite, but kind of got bumped. I don't really know what happened there too much, but I see coming out of that race, this horse has come back and fired a nice 5 furlong work. And you see Johnny V sees fit to get aboard here. And this is a course that's going to be inside drawn, has shown speed at 6 furlongs. So I actually don't hate it because this horse stretching out. And, I know our good friend Matt DeSantis always says, for some reason, whenever Johnny V gets on a speed horse, it seems like people just kind of get out of the way for him. So him drawing the rail, maybe kind of sneakily being the speed horse inside on this race. I'm trying to get around some of these shorter price horses and maybe see if we can sneak one home here with the 1 Icona Mama. And I'm actually kind of shocked that nobody else liked this horse at all. So,
I respect the hell out of the single, but I don't. That might be my next to last pick if I end this right. Like, Mark, how deep would you have to go to get to that horse, or are you?
It'd be my last pick. I would take every other horse in the race before that one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was shocked when you said if you want to throw the horse in, it's Johnny V getting up for a small barn and has a little speed. I can see some. There's ingredients there to cook, but you don't got a meal yet. That's a bold single.
It's called deconstructed, Caleb. All right, it's deconstructed. Dude, by the way, I didn't even see that Matthew got in chat. And so it's kind of funny that I mentioned his little JV angle there. He's saying, "Let's go, gang! Checking in from a bar in New York City. What a guy!" We were in the middle of a sports book, just losing our ass in Vegas, and we couldn't even check in. But this guy's in New York City at a bar, and he's checking in here. Nick Sievers, he likes girl math, going from dirt to dirt from Turfway Park, the little Chase Sessoms dirty pig boy angle that Matthew Sanders called out. So Oh yeah, Matthew saying Russ, it's unclear if Luan knows how many turns this race is, so he might be trying to go around a second time. Oh, Matthew saying he can't hear us, but he's had 2 spicy palomas. So, I mean, he's just living his best life out there, man.
He really is.
Living on
He
the
really,
beach,
really
you
is.
know, having some palomas. What do you guys? Either of you guys like girl math here at all?
I like Gromouth a bit. I thought Gromouth was interesting here. Getting back on dirt, pedigree says probably dirt is should be the right surface. Obviously the maiden breaker happened at Turfway, a little bit of dirtied up form. This feels like the kind of horse that gets a little ignored on the board. I think you get every bit of that 5-1. Wouldn't surprise me if this horse goes off at 8 or 9-1. So, enough tactical speed to be involved early. And I like the Axeman. So, no, I think there's a lot to like about Girl Math. You just have to get the right price on this one.
Yeah, he's fine, or she's fine. I don't want to spread too much because I don't think the race is that deep personally. But Girl Math, I think, will be a fair price, and you get the winning jock back up who seems to get this horse. Pratt did not give her the best ride.
Nope, he did not.
Falling way too far behind in that last race. So I think we get that little synth poly pop. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it.
All right. We have a couple minutes here till race 9 at Turfway Park. I got the 2 and the 3 here.
And oh my gosh! Really, you're gonna mush me? You're gonna mush me?
You have the 2.
I think if anything, you're mushing him. Those are the 2 cheap speeds.
Dude, the early part of this card was all cheap speed, and so I was like, oh, I'll pick all the cheap speed horses, and I landed on the 2 and the 3 here.
Yeah, it looks like the 3. I mean, the thing is that the 3 is not only the speed, but the 3 is also like run the best numbers by a significant amount. I mean, I guess the 6 has got a race, 4 back that's really good, but yeah, the 3 looks really good. And then I just thought the 2 off the claim. I honestly saw the 10-1 morning line and thought like, we're not going to get 10-1. It's going to be closer to like 6 or 7-1. This horse is 16-1 currently. So I see Penn State Scott. He's going to go long. He's going long with the 7 at Turfway. So Caleb, do you look at this race at all?
Just a quick glance. I do like your 2. The 3, I mean, off the layoff and first time synth, I'd probably more take a wait and see approach. But you're, especially at 7-2, I think I do like your 2, and I kind of like the 1 on the class drop who, second off the layoff class drop for a barn that's been having some success here. So I kind of like the 1 and 2.
I'm just going to play numbers. I'm going to play the 1, 2, 3 trifecta box.
I
got to win bet on this too, because I feel like this is some humongous overlay here. Like I got to be missing something. I mean, this horse is got to finish dead last.
So dude, Rush is saying this horse is ready to go. Buck the jockey off in the post parade, clearly loaded, ready to go.
Oh, there we go. I just doubled my bet. Seriously, I literally just doubled my bet.
$2 now?
No, I got $20 on it.
Nice.
Hey, somebody told me I got to bring the $100 to race 9, so I'm just, I'm listening to.
Well, is that like $100 win bet or just like $100 in total?
I mean, I brought it. I'm not saying I'm going to use all of it, but I brought it. It's with me. Oh man, they still. Let's take a look here. All right, it looks like they're loading in here.
You get a minute.
Yeah, but hey, if Caleb's 1 can suck up for second or third, and I get this trifecta, I mean, we're dancing. Caleb, you look at any of the jumps racing at all this week?
No, I just really can't get into it. I've tried before, and I know it's a big festival and everything, but it's just not for me. Did you?
I did. I've been actually posting plays every single day, trying to be like Kev Hum.
No, look at you. Yeah, work's been busy, so I haven't had time to look at anything honestly since getting back from Vegas.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. Since we got back from Vegas, I've not felt great. Like I don't know if it like I couldn't sleep the first like couple nights, and then like I'm just like
You
I don't know.
slept
I
good on
feel
Friday night.
I did. I did. I had a nice little nap. How late did we stay out Friday night too?
I called it at about 1. You were still down there, but I think you weren't. You said you were about to go back too.
Mm, yeah. Well, I had that second win, so
I think Mike went up at midnight. So I mean, Gary was probably out till like 5.
yeah.
Well,
Surprisingly, the one
the
went to the
one got
lead.
the lead, so that's how I saw this race going.
You're much smarter than I.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
I know you were, but still.
I don't think it's gonna matter.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't look gonna matter, but
Oh, I just saw the 2 went from 16 to 1 to 6 to 1 late.
Wow, yeah.
So clearly, my $20 carried a lot of weight there. But
well,
he's gonna
it's all
need
the
to catch
whales
an
watching
Uber.
our stream firing away. So
That's probably what it is. With that big middle move, you got the 3 might get a little short here.
this 3 is done.
Off that
Yeah.
layoff, yeah.
And there goes the favorite 6. Oh, maybe this 9's got enough.
Mm,
Well, I'm putting a good run, but
it's not,
nope, chalk.
Damn. Well, it's fun while it lasted. See, we should have listened to Russ after the 2. I should have canceled my bet. I shouldn't have doubled it. All right. Race 9, the 1-turn mile in the 8th Virginia Derby. Apparently, I did not realize that Colonial was now Belmont. But yeah, this is another 50-point race here, and we get a field of 10. Well, technically 9, because the number 2 John Hancock is going to point to the Louisiana Derby. So that makes 9 to 5 on Getaway Car. Probably going to be even shorter than that. Rapture at 5 to 1. Probably going to be closer to 5 to 2 if I had to guess, if not even shorter than that. And then you got double digits on everybody else. You know, before I knew that John Hancock was scratching out of this, I mean, I just kind of figured that Rapture was probably going to be the horse to beat, or the horse to bet in this race. I thought he was going to present the value in here, and you know, I just don't like these types of horses from Bob Baffert, like the 6 Getaway Car. I mean, if he thinks this horse is any good, it would be in California or it would be at Oaklawn. I mean, even if it's his like 7th or 8th best horse, he'll take the 3rd or 4th place points at one of those races, right, and get into the gate. Now I get he won the Sunland Derby, but I mean, I did not expect Bob Baffert shipping a horse to Colonial to be on my bingo card this year. So I don't know. This just smells, right? And I just don't like it. And maybe, like I said, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe, maybe Bob is trying to get 10 or 12 into the gate to prove a point, and so he has to send horses to the places like Colonial and stuff to get everything. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if that's not the case, why isn't Bob sending horses to to Fairgrounds? I mean, if anything, I think Fairgrounds would probably play to the way he likes to train his horses, like those grindy speed horses. I mean, that long stretch would be perfect for a Baffert horse. But yeah, I just don't like it. I mean, I get Irad's here; he gets aboard, like fine, but when I saw that they named Flavian Pratt was going to was going to jump on Rapture here, I just thought that probably spoke about how much Brad Cox probably likes his horse. And so, you know, I looked at this field, and to take something out of Caleb's vocabulary, there's just a lot of horses in this race that I've seen enough of. And so I just thought that Rapture at least is kind of a new face in here, a new shooter. And so I was going to go with Rapture in this spot, and just single. I'm not going to use anybody else in here. Mark, how did you kind of see this race?
I'm shockingly 100% in agreement with you, Josh. I think Getaway Card is, I don't know, a C tier, D tier Baffert horse. Horse debuted at 5 and then, 5 furlongs, and then going 6 furlongs, wins first 2, and then was bet like a sure thing in the next 2 races and flopped. And obviously, we're seeing a horse that 2 to 3 and everything else, but he sent him to the Sunland Derby. He sent it, that's like a C tier Derby prep. And the horse won, but he was very much supposed to in that race. I don't necessarily think this is the deepest field or anything, but this is such a suspect Baffer, and it feels like he is just, I don't know, taking a shot at the new Derby prep or something. I don't know what's up. I think he just single Rapture on the spot. I think Rapture doesn't need to take much of a step forward off that last race, and when Baffer has good horses and Flavian's in town, Flavian's always on the Baffert, and he's not on this Baffert. Arad actually doesn't ride for Baffert very often. Only had 3 mounts in the last year for him. So, I think it's really telling that Flavian sticks with the Cox horse in here and Rapture, and I think Rapture is just much the horse to beat, and Getaway Car can just simply beat me. So, nothing creative there. Very much agree with you though, Josh.
I don't know. There's some mental gymnastics going on in this chat tonight. I mean, we're going to sit here and pick holes in the Baffert and why is he here? He's a C-tier Baffert. I mean, it's not like Rapture's trained by Melanie Giddings. Like, it's Brad Cox, for fuck's sake. Like, the same argument applies to him as it would to the Baffert. Like, there's just no way you can make that argument in my mind. So, yeah, for me, this is a one-horse race. Getaway Car can show up with a B effort and still win. He's much the fastest in this race, and it's not just like he has one race that's much the fastest. He's, he could run pretty much any of his last 3 or 4, and he's going to win this race. And yes, he flopped as the, quote unquote, flopped as the favorite, but he lost to Citizen Bull, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then he lost to Journalism, who was your current favorite in the Kentucky Derby. So I don't think this is an A Baffert. Of course it's not. Baffert has better horses in his barn, but this is a terrible field. I mean, these are awful horses for the most part. And I mean, no disrespect to the connections, but this is not where you go if you think you have a legit Derby horse. But it's where you go if you want to steal a couple points and get a thrill and get a horse in the gate maybe, or if you have too many horses and, you can't just keep running them all against each other in California. So I just think the Getaway Car, I mean, he's pretty much maybe not proven at a mile and an 1/8, but he's been proven multiple times at essentially a mile and a 16th. He controls the pace of the race, I think. It's just Rapture needs to get faster. So for me, I don't think it's that close, and you're not going to get 5-1 Rapture with the other Cox scratching out. So to me, I mean, Rapture might be 3-5, or I'm sorry, Getaway Car might be 3-5. Rapture might be like 9-5. And there's just, at those prices, I would take the 3-5 Getaway Car.
My God, I wish Juan had chipped in because we would have the fate of the century. Caleb just gushing over Getaway
That's why
Car.
he's all over it. Is because Juan's not aboard, so he knows he can't hurt him.
That's true. I can't be hurt.
And clearly, SF Racing and Starlight Racing both, need their thrills in getting a big name horse to win a race. Yeah,
clearly. But I mean, as much as this is a fake Baffert, he doesn't ship them all the way across the country for nothing. Baffert typically does extremely well when he ships east.
Anything else on this race?
Why wouldn't this horse be at a real track if he was legitimate? That's all.
I mean,
because he's not. But these aren't legitimate race horses that he's running against.
Honestly, like the Sunland Derby, Baffert always sends 1 or 2 to the Sunland Derby, so that doesn't strike me as weird. It's the ship and cross country thing. I don't know.
I mean, I will say it's a short run back for Baffert. He doesn't normally run them off of less than a month. Well, it'll be just about a month, I suppose. But February, just under a month. And then a big ship right there. That is not a typical Baffert move to ship on short rest. But again, Rapture is the only other horse I could possibly probably make an argument for. But to me, I mean, it may be Authentic Gallop if you really squint. But yeah, I just don't think it's that. I'm not willing to go against Getaway Car, and I'm fine losing if he loses, I guess.
All right. And the last race here, race 10, mile and 16th, 80K allowance here. And yeah, we have a field of 9 in this race, 6-5 on the 6 Supreme Law. And then you get 9-2 on passing game, 6-1 on Michaelicious and Mo Rewards, and 8-1 Protege, double digits on the rest. Mark, where did you land?
Oh man, another race that I thought, I know Josh was saying this sequence was a bit logical and everything else, and I think this is a race where, well, I thought the race kind of went through the 2 passing game, or somebody like the 9, the 9 Mo Rewards. I thought both of them made a lot of sense. But again, there's no horse in here who's a win machine. There's no horse that loves, loves this trip or loves, loves a circuit or anything. So I thought there was a lot of ways you could go. I thought, Pratt getting up for an inert horse is always a really live, very sort of interesting interesting angle, and that being the 2. And I thought Mo Rewards, although horse 1 last out and doesn't necessarily love to win, figures make this horse a major player. And on these big days and in these mid-Atlantic tracks, Jamie Ness kind of always shows up and always gets a couple. So I thought those are the 2 most interesting horses, at least for me. But man, there's a lot of other ways you could go in here. I'm more interested to see how kind of Caleb saw this race, because I had a hard time with it. I had an easier time with other races, but sort of some of these middle, what race 7 and race 10 were the hard ones for me.
Yeah, I think this race, I think it has to start and end with what do you do with the 6 Supreme Law, right? I mean, the horse won by 427 lengths in his last 2 starts, and recorded Beyer speed figures that would beat Secretariat by furlong. I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but like just out of nowhere, 2 just obscene races. But for me, I mean, the thing that jumps off, and I'm sure to Mark and everybody, is they both came over, off tracks, muddy sealed tracks specifically. So to me, that's not a horse I want anything to do with at 6-5. So he's a favorite that I'm comfortably going against. I do not need Supreme Law. I think those figs kind of came out of nowhere. They came when he was able to dictate things by himself on the lead. They came on off tracks, and I just don't really need him in this spot, especially when you figure that Rodriguez, who is, maybe the 1B to Ness's 1A with Michael Sanchez, but Rodriguez kind of did have the last call on this horse and ends up on the other Ness. So I don't know what you'd make of all that, but what I make of it is Supreme Law is not a horse I need at 6-5. I do agree with Mark with the 2. I think passing game is probably my top pick in here. Probably just went a little too far, going 1.25 miles last time out. So the cutback here obviously makes some sense. And then the other horse I wanted to give a look at is the number 3 Smart Mo. And I think you got to squint and make some excuses a little bit. But when you're talking 10-1 or so, I think you're getting a fair enough price to maybe do something like that. And it is kind of the other Peterton in here. Clearly the 2 is the more well-meant horse. But this is a horse that if he runs back to some of his races at Santa Anita last summer, he wins this race. I mean, assuming it doesn't come up sloppy anyway, and Supreme Law, does whatever he's been doing. But, if we get a fast track and Smart Mo gets back to those Santa Anita races, he's going to be extremely difficult to beat. Something kind of went wrong in that Del Mar race. I don't know if he just didn't handle the surface, if he, just maybe he bounced off of some of those 2 big efforts, Santa Anita perhaps. But he got a bunch of time off, which, I think is, a new barn. And then comes back in a sprint at Fairgrounds, which if you look at his body of work is pretty obviously a prep race. And then he goes and stretches out at Turfway, going 1 mile on the synthetic, and runs average. I mean, not a great run, but, perhaps just didn't care for the synthetic. So for me, I mean, you do have to kind of make a series of excuses here, but I like the fact that Peterton does not drop this horse despite having a couple of disappointing runs. He keeps him in allowance company. In fact, he ships him and runs him here when he already has a pretty good looking runner in by the same barn and same connections and everything. He gets first time gelding here and the blinkers go on. Some of those better efforts at Santa Anita did come with the blinkers on. So for me, I'm hoping to see him be aggressive out of the gate, maybe get a forward position. And he's one that I think will get overlooked off of the last couple of runs, but there might still be something there. So I can make an argument for the 3. I like the 2, as Mark mentioned. And then if nobody shows up, the horse that's going to run his race is the one. I don't really like the one. I think he's more likely to hit the board than he is to win. But if nobody improves or people bounce or the 6 needs a sloppy track or if no one else shows up, the one is very consistent and probably, maybe finally finds the right level in the right field. But for me, it's more the 2 and 3.
Yeah, I should have started with a 6 myself personally. Apologies for not kind of going there first, but very much to what Caleb said. That's a horse who, when I see a horse that jumps up and throws these crazy figures on an off track after having kind of mediocre, good form or decent form, but takes a major step forward, you kind of go, wait a second, did the surface change or the conditions change? Probably may have prompted that. So yeah, very much what Caleb said. I just didn't articulate it that well. And also, I do have an update on the whole consent thing. So apparently, a track cannot race without an agreement/consent from the state commission and the horsemen. If no consent is in place, it's illegal under both state and federal law. And very often, it's common for these to be kind of last-minute agreements. So what it sounds like happened at the Colonial situation was that one of those two parties was not 100% in agreement, and they did not sign the agreement until after some sort of hold period, and therefore it made the final race a non-wagering event because not everybody was in agreement on terms and conditions and purses and trips and all of that kind of thing. So that is what the consent relates to. It's that all of the multiple parties that have to agree on the racing conditions were not all in agreement, and because this is a new meet and this is a new time slot, that would make some sense.
So, Caleb, you can tell your dad that the bureaucrats stole that pick 5 from him.
You mean the Democrats?
Oh no! Oh god!
Hey, it's Virginia. It's a blue state.
Oh,
Is it really?
it's like purplish.
It's very purple.
Yeah. I mean, you guys already talked the 2 to death. I mean, that's my top pick in here. So, we probably just mushed the heck out of it. It's my lone A in here. I do have 2 Bs that I'm going to be using. One is the 5 Protege. And I know Nick talked about this a little bit earlier, the old poly pop, right? The horse switching from synthetic back to dirt. I thought that I thought it was interesting that Irad's going to stick around and ride this horse. I get it. I get that it's C2 racing, right? And he rides a lot for Safi and for C2 racing. So like I get that, but I don't know. I just thought that was maybe a little bit of a tell there that maybe this horse is a little bit more well meant. It's got a couple of races I think on fast that look to fit in here if you kind of cross the line through the 2 muddy figures that the 6 ran. Yeah, I think the 5 lines up pretty well. 8-1 is a decent price. You're probably not going to get that because it's Irad, but one horse that kind of I don't know. I mean, I have to pick Cheap Speed at some point during the stream, right?
Didn't you already on a couple times? I mean, you also picked Cheap Speed in the last at Turfway, and
yeah. I mean that's true. Well, I'm just staying on brand here, Mark.
Okay,
cool. The 4 Virginia City. I mean, first of all, right, this is Virginia Derby Day, so right, on name alone, right, we got to bet Virginia City, but I think it's shown some speed. In a couple of races, and then last time out, just didn't show that speed. Kind of went out into the 4 path and wasn't able to make up much ground there. But I see JG Torrealba get aboard here. And he's a fairly aggressive guy. You see the kind of the work pattern coming into this. I think looks pretty good and looks like a horse that's going to try and get out quick. And if you kind of squint your eyes and look back at kind of the work pattern before that December 14th race where he broke its maiden going wire to wire, had a very similar kind of work pattern where he was, just really getting out the gate fast, and getting those bullet works in. So I don't know. I'm taking this a shot that hey, maybe this is a horse that's going to get really loose and get maybe brave out there on the front end. I mean, it's 30-1 in the morning line, and Caleb's not going to talk me off of 30-1.
Never.
Yeah, I have this horse as a B. Maybe if we get all chalk and we need something to get a total explosion there in the last race, maybe the 4 can do it here. But I'm going to use the 2 as my lone A, and then I'm going to use the 4 and the 5 here as Bs.
How do I get on the same terms as you where Caleb won't talk me up 30 to 1s, especially when they cost me 6 figures? That's all I want to know. Like how do I get there? How do I get
You
to
gotta
that
come to
point with
Vegas.
Caleb?
Yeah.
I did multiple times, and it doesn't help. Damn.
Oh man. Anything else about this colonial card? I did see Nick mention about American Promise. He thinks American Promise is going to make the gate just because going to have 2 more shots at getting points here.
Is that the Lucas horse?
Yeah, the 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I don't know. I think if I remember correctly, I think Andrew kind of liked the horse a little bit. American Promise. I mean, I think you got to squint to get there, but he's trying to make an argument for this horse. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see it, but he's gonna grind his way to Derby points apparently. And then he's asking if calling card is scratching. I haven't seen anything. Have you, Mark? Mark?
Sorry, what was that?
I said it's the he asked if calling card is scratching. I haven't seen anything. Have you?
I haven't seen anything. No, sorry.
Okay. So, all right, we still got 8 minutes there before Turfway, but we had a couple other stakes races that I thought might be worth taking a look at real quick before we wrap up. We have a nice grade 3 going a mile and a quarter here at Santa Ana. Hey, I don't know. I thought you got a kind of interesting field. I mean, you have an even money favorite, Kathy and Marissa. And then 5-2 on Mrs. Astor, 5-1 on Starry Heavens, 8-1 on Mahina. Caleb, as the Santa Anita expert, who wins this race?
It's tough because I do think that the 8 Catherine Marissa is the best horse in the field. She always shows up. She was beaten 2 lengths by She Feels Pretty, who ran a monster race out of Cherie DeVoe's barn. Won the Dolan Ground Oaks at Kentucky Downs, and then just missed in the Saratoga Oaks Invitational to Cinderella's Dream, who's an excellent Appleby runner. But my only problem with Catherine Marissa is that everything Dutrow has sent over to Santa Anita has run like crap. I mean, they have been beyond terrible, despite how good they look. I mean, he said, I'm showing 9 runners on Brisnet, 0 winners, and only 1 of which have hit the board. So I don't know if it's different vet checks or medication checks, or I don't know what's going on, but it just seems like a guy who's 35% at Aqueduct is, negative 35% here at Santa Anita. And that really makes me nervous. So I do think she's the horse to beat for sure. But I think that the way the barn's going kind of takes her away from like what otherwise would be a stone cold single to me, to like, I think you do have to look at a horse like Mrs. Astor, who's been extremely consistent, or even a horse like Starry Heavens coming over from Ireland, who's coming in with a pretty impressive work tab for Phil D'Amato, who does outstanding with horses shipping to the U.S. So I think that Catherine Marissa should win, but with the way the barn's going, I cannot single her, and I would probably have to have at least a little bit of Starry Heavens, and then potentially Mrs. Astor, take her leave.
Well, there's one other thing that you didn't go after, and I'm kind of surprised you didn't kind of poke at, which is that Frankie's up on the 8, and Frankie, is after declaring bankruptcy. Does he ride like he needs to pay the money back, or is he just kind of throwing up his hands and is not really caring anymore?
We call that the Kent Thormo.
Yeah, the Kent Thormo, like pay the rent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is the rent due, or like I don't know. And I mean, I know we're kind of joking about it, but that's actually kind of a serious question here. Like, is this sort of a situation where his head's not in the game right now, and maybe he rides like garbage? I think Catherine Marissa for me makes some sense for all the reasons Caleb said. But I think it's a horse that I probably just toss in this spot, and I think I do land on somebody like Miss Astor, the three, who is the horse I'm most interested in. Caleb mentioned the five. Thought the five made a ton of sense here. Horse hasn't won in quite a long time, but I do like the fact this is first in North America. Although not getting Lasix here, but a lot of times these Euro runners are finding just easier company, and maybe finds the going a little bit easier. The other horse I was a little interested in is the rail horse, the one Lady Claypool, has won 2 in a row for Tiago. Tiago back on this horse. Is this just a situation where the jock is just really kind of getting this horse? They stepped up in class from the 2 back to the last out, and again they're taking a big step up in class, but I don't know how big in California the optional 80 to a G3 jump really is. And I wonder, Lady Claypool at 20-1 to me needs to take a step forward to be a major player in this race, but it's not a crazy huge step forward. And at that kind of a price, I thought the one was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I honestly I like the 2 horses in this race, and they're the 2 inside horses. I like the one Lady Claypool, mostly because I just see a situation where Caleb's live to a monster, and the Tiago
And
FU horse
Tiago
just
knows.
pops up
It's
out of
always
nowhere.
Tiago.
It's always
Um,
Tiago.
but no, I mean, I just like I think you make a really great point, Mark. This is a horse that's just on this upward trajectory, right? The last three races, and you kind of look at you don't have the horse realizes that Diego Herrera's not on its back, and all of a sudden gets Luis Saez and Tiago twice, and it kind of seemed to turn it around. I know Richard Baltus. He's I know he raced quite a few, I think, horses last year, but he's still, I think, building up his barn from serving that suspension a couple of years ago. And I mean, the man knows how to train a turf horse. You know, so he's had a great start to the meet in a limited sample size with 73 starters. He's got 18% winners, and yeah, I don't think that this horse needs to take a huge step forward, I think, to be competitive in here. So I like the one Lady Claypool, and I also like the number 2 Mahina in this race. Obviously, we get Hector Barrios who stays aboard, but I mean, this is a horse that's finished second in two grade threes in back-to-back races. I mean, obviously finished second to Mrs. Astor last time out, or 2 back by a nose there. But I don't know. Hector's just got this. He knows how to get these horses to the end on these turf. He's got excellent clock in his head. So I just thought that the 2 Mahina might be able to on the stretch out be able to make that one run and maybe have Hector kind of time it a little bit. Is another one that, like I said, has got back races that probably fit in here pretty closely. And I mean, I just don't want any part of Kathy and Marissa here at the 8. I even tried to make a case for the 4 Omaha Girl as possibly just lone speed that kind of gets out there and gets comfortable. Um, you know, I see George Papapadromo is training, and I'll be honest, if it was Kent DeStormo and not Giovanni Franco, I probably would have sent it in. But yeah, we get Franco on this one, and um, I don't know. It's 30-1, right? So maybe it's like a tournament play, but yeah, I couldn't get there, but I definitely tried. But yeah, I'll go with the 1 and the 2 in this race. Oh, they just scratched the 9 here at Turfway.
Oh, that was one of my keys. Go figure.
Really?
Well, I like the 8 and the 9 in this race at Turfway. I was trying to play some tries with the. I think the 7 has to probably hit the board but not win. So I was trying to do an 8-9 over 7 over 4-6, 8-9-10 or something like that. Play it for $2 or $3, but with the 9 being scratched, I might have to reconsider.
Yeah, I went with the 4, 8, and 10 here in the little exacta, but I keyed the 10 the most, so I have the 10 on top for a little bit more. But Mark, what do you got here?
I'm just winning better than 10. So Because I was dead after the last leg, so just went about the time.
Yeah, it's all, sometimes the pick one is the best bet.
Right.
That's sometimes what I do love about like the European stuff, like when Ascot comes around, or like
It's so much simpler. Like just boom, simple.
I know it's always funny though. So like there's a Discord I'm in for FIFA, and there's a lot of British guys over there, and they'll do like the accumulators and like the place picks and all this stuff, and they're like parlaying all this stuff, and I'm like, just like us in our pick fives, except they're only doing it with like one horse in each race, right? They're not doing what we do. We're spreading in certain races and things like that. Looks like they're loading into the gate, and then we can briefly talk about the Whitmore before we sign off here for the.
You mean the best race of this weekend, right?
You think so?
Oh, by far.
Is it just because you have a soft spot for Whitmore?
I mean, that doesn't hurt, but
all right.
Who doesn't have a soft? How do you not like Whitmore? Like, I mean, not liking Whitmore is like un-American or something, right?
I believe I said some negative things about Whitmore, but that might have also been when I was mad at Chase, and it was probably a little personal.
Had you bought Wi-Fi at that point for your flight, or?
Oh man, yeah, that would be funny, right? Buying Wi-Fi just to
insult Chase,
insult Whitmore. Man, they're flying up here.
Yeah, they are definitely moving. I don't see the 8. Is he outside of the 6?
Is 23-3 moving at Turfway?
Yeah, but they're awful strung out.
But
the 8's outside the 6.
Apparently it is, because this 10 is very done.
I played 8-7 over 4-6
or
10. It's Wesley Ward. He has at least one rebreak in him.
There's
the 10's cruising.
And so washy. Like,
oh, he is so washy. The 8 and 7 both have horse here. 8 needs somewhere to go.
I need this 11 to be a G and float this 7 out real wide.
Come on, 8. The 7 can't win. He's over 23.
Dude, I hated the 7.
But an over 23 horse won earlier on the card, Caleb. You forgot.
Yeah, they can't do it twice.
Oh?
I'm trying to jinx myself. Don't you know you're 12 for 23?
No, apparently it doesn't.
It was 8-7 all day, and I could never put the 7 on top at over 23.
Dude, what was so funny is
what's wrong with Cross?
He's terrible.
Dude, just like he fell off a cliff.
What was really funny is I was looking at that race, and Mark hopped in a chat, and I said 0 for 23. He's like, yeah, 0 for 23 just won. And that was the horse I was looking at. Oh my god, it made all the sense in the world. Went off at 5-1.
I mean, if you're an optics player, that horse you bet with 7 hands.
Oh, that's gonna hurt. Oh well, that's Turfway for you. All right, we got one last race here, the Whitmore. That's gonna be race 10 here at OTWL Park, and we got a full field of 9 here. Your morning line favorite is going to be the 4 Booth. Tejano Twist is at 7-2. Happy's a choice at 4-1. Close the game Sugar 9-2. Giant Mischief at 5-1. Miles ahead at 8-1. Double digits on the rest. Caleb, where did you land?
I thought this was, out of everything we covered today, I thought this was maybe the hardest race. I couldn't really make any arguments for, well, I take that back. I could make arguments for bombs in here, but I don't think they'll actually be bombs. I think the lines on the 6 and the 9 are both terrible. Glengarry and Durante. I'm not saying they're the most likely winner, but they're not 20-1s in this field, not by any stretch. That being said, I love them probably to run underneath. Maybe they could win, but if they do, they're B's at best for me. I ended up going to the 8, close the game Sugar. This horse was, for a brief period last year, one of the best sprinters in the country, despite not really taking on, the traditional route of the top tier, sprinters. But this horse was winning on turf, dirt, synthetic. It didn't really matter, and then something clearly went wrong at Churchill when he was beaten by Happy as a Choice, big layoff, but comes back here, in a grade 3 at Whitmore. I'm willing to kind of forgive that last race. And if you do that, I think, largely the body of work that he's put in prior to that is extremely good. I mean, beaten by the Chosen Vron 2-back, and then he's beaten horses like Angkor, Hoist of Gold. I mean, he pretty much dusted Tejano Twist back at Churchill in the Aristides. He beat Skelly in that race. I mean, he's beat some nice horses, So for me, you got to kind of get past what happened last time. And if this horse goes off at 2-1 or something, then I'm going to probably change my opinion. But at 9-2, I think Close the Game Sugar is worth another shot, just given the consistency that we saw from him for, essentially 2 years. So he's my top pick in here. I do think it's a tough race, and this is the one that I would spread pretty deep in because I think you could make an argument for probably 6 horses. So I'm curious where you guys went.
Yeah, again, I agree with Caleb there. Very tough race. And I think I'll start this race by saying I think there's quite a bit of speed on paper. Now, obviously, every 6 furlong race has quite a bit of speed. That's just part of the course. But this race, I think, is ripe to come apart a little bit. And it's an interesting race in the fact that there are 2 winners of this race who are both in this race. And I actually landed on one of them, and I landed on the pricier of the 2, and that's the 5 Jackson Traveler. Jackson Traveler won the Whitmore last year, and has been, historically really liked Oaklawn, really liked this trip, and a horse that is in really good form as of the last 4 races. Now, on paper, this horse is a little bit too slow. But I kind of mentioned that there's quite a bit of pace, but the thing I like about Jackson Traveler is he isn't really a need the lead type. He's the kind of horse that can sit a little bit of a pocket trip, sit a little bit off. Again, you're depending on one of Asmussen's sons to invent a decent trip with him, but he likes the trip, he likes the track, likes to win, and I think he's a really, really interesting player. So I think that Jackson Traveler in here is probably my top pick. But I think there's also a situation where this race really comes apart at the seams, where they go a little fast on the front end and it does fall apart. And I think if that does happen for me, is somebody like the Tejano Twist, the one who is your other defending champion, or whatever, 2 years or 3 years ago when he won this race. I think he's a very interesting player in here as well. And again, if it does come apart, I haven't been following Oaklawn a ton this year. I don't know about Bacon's ability to sort of manage a closer, but I think he's the other horse in this race that I find the most interesting. Can somebody like Booth win? Sure, Booth can definitely win this race. But I want to go for sort of that, either the horse that can kind of set that pocket trip just off some of the speed balls in the front end, or somebody like Tejano Twist who's going to be quite a bit off and can pick apart the pieces late.
Tyler Bacon's been sizzling.
Mm-hmm. He's been having a good meet. I mean, yeah, it was terrible, but yeah, he's been having a good meet.
Tejano Twist is my top pick in this race. I think this is just a horse that loves Oaklawn, and obviously, came back, early, into the Churchill Downs, into Oaklawn Park, won that nice King Cotton last out. So I think, had a little bit of a breather, and I think he should be coming back here primed, ready to win. I like Tejano Twist. I also like the 3 Giant Mischief. Yeah, I mean, we're talking, maybe this horse is kind of getting lost a little bit just because, didn't run much last year. I mean, ran a decent third in that Malibu 2 years back, where he finished second to Speedboat Beach and Hijazi, and then just came back and rolled off 2 wins, in October of 24 and November of 24. So I'm not really too concerned about the layoff. I think for Giant Mischief, and I think Giant Mischief is a versatile type, right? He can win on the lead, he can win just off. So I think he's got like I said, so he's got some back figures that really fit in here. So I like Giant Mischief here. I think he's a much better horse going shorter. So since they, after they got off that Derby trail, 2 years ago, and they realized he's a sprinter, I think he's just turned into a much nicer horse. So I really like Giant Mischief in this spot. And like I said, like I'm not too worried about the layoff. I looked at Jackson Traveler very long. I don't know what price you're going to get on this horse because, um, I mean it's like this horse was running in an Oak Lawn and running in, some of the best, like the Pimlico Turf Sprint or Dirt Sprint. Was it this like the Maryland Sprint Championship or something? I forget what they call the race. The Count Fleet, the Whitmore, right? He's running in those grade threes, and then it's like all of a sudden Asmussen's like, oh, that's right. I like to train in Oklahoma and other places, so let's send him there. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he cleaned up, but he hasn't really been facing all that much out there. So while the figures look good and obviously the form looks good, I'm curious to see how he's going to hold up going against horses of this caliber again. So that's my only question mark. I think you make a good point. I mean, right, a horse coming in off 4 straight wins in the second, right, and most of those being in listed stakes races. Why not take a shot with one of those? But yeah, I'm mostly going to be through the 1 and the 3 in this race.
Gotta love Tejano Twist, right? Like, might be one of my favorite horses in training, if not my favorite. I mean,
Agreed.
he's kind of like a Whitmore, right? He shows up for 6 or 8 races a year, 9 races a year, and you're always a little anxious because he's always a mile back, and he always shows up with that just devastating late run. Sometimes he gets there, sometimes he doesn't, but he's such a fun horse to watch. He always shows up. He runs everywhere you'd like to see him run. I mean, he didn't get to the Breeders' Cup last year, but I mean, besides that, he's been just a really awesome horse.
Yeah, I mean, you love these horses, right? And like you look right, and like you just look at his form, right? What is it? The last 10 races, 12 races, or whatever. He's only run one bad race, and it was in the grade 1, right? And he finished 7th, right? But that figure still like it's not like it's like some like awful race, right? Like he's just a real honest horse, and yeah, I just think that this is kind of his level, right? This grade 3, maybe he'll sneak in a grade 2 at some point here. I mean, he's still probably got another year or two of like his top level that we'll have. Yeah, he's going to be a fun one, I think, to watch this year. All right, man. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here. Yeah, we like I said, we got one more week till we get into the last kind of set of Derby preps. We are like what 6 weeks out from the Derby, 7 weeks, something like that, 8 weeks. I don't know. I can't do math, but
7,
we're
yeah.
not. Yeah, we're not that far out. So. Yeah, we'll keep on doing this. Our weekly stuff. We're going to be live tomorrow night to cover Hong Kong because it's a Friday night card, and we normally record Friday nights. So we're like, hey, why don't we just stay up and maybe play the first couple races? So that should be fun tomorrow night. Obviously, you can check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Caleb is at Caleb WVU. Mark is at 2Turns. Good luck, guys. Let's make some money. Have a good weekend.